Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Closer. This is Steve Laveaga, Fidelity National Financial, your guest fill-in B player.
I don't think you're a B player,
helper.
Steve.
Yeah, no. So they couldn't get anybody else, so they dragged me into this. How's everybody doing? But I am with the A player, Mr. Jason Abrams. Jason, how are you, brother?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you and I had a little interaction earlier this week, right, on a couple things, and 700 transactions in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Right? How many markets are in now? 4?
4 markets.
4-ish, yeah. And I really believe, and I'm blessed, as you know, I get to travel a little bit. So this is my 4th state, by the way, on Thursday. So I'm happy to say that.
You slowed down this week.
Yeah, slow down this week. I do, yeah. The reality is, being in multiple markets allows you to see trends, allows you to see what I call core best practices that work everywhere, and allows you to see some niches that may be coming, because we see things kind of start out of California and then kind of eke out Vegas, Arizona. So agents out there, we're going to try to give you a real broad brush of what is working, what isn't, what we see as trends and niches, and then really some content on how you go about attacking that, okay? Why don't we first kind of get into, Jay, the market of the moment?
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
We see a little bit of a slowdown, especially in Phoenix. It's not like it's a stop. It's not 08 or anything, but there is a little bit of a pause. What are you seeing in your markets?
Well, I think that you see the same type of slowdown every time these markets shift. And what you see is it starts in the ultra-luxury markets. And when we look at that, we used to look at the Hamptons in San Francisco and Manhattan. Well, we've now taken San Francisco out because of the tech money there. It's no longer relevant.
True.
But when we look at the Hamptons, they're coming off of their worst season in the last 11 years. Now, I'm not saying that means the sky is going to fall. I am saying, though, that it starts in the ultra-luxury markets and it works its way down. I don't think the sky is going to fall on anyone's market, but I think you could easily see 8 to 15% reduction starting probably now and then slowly happening over the next 2 years and hitting impactfully in 2020.
I do think we've had a little bit of a lip sync market, meaning everybody in real estate looks good. Now, when the music slows down or stops a little bit, some people can actually sing and some people not as well. And I think those folks that don't really have kind of just ridden into the market, don't really have a business practice, don't really have a coordinated approach to their data bank or database, as we like to say, don't really have an intensity to lead generation, and more than that, lead conversion. It gets tougher.
Oh, 100%. And it happens all the time. Think back to the realtors whose name was synonymous with success during the REO and short sale days. And then ask yourself, where are they now? I think VH1 is still looking for most of those guys. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of them adapted, and those are the ones that we study and model, because what they did really well is they were able to say, the market makes up for the inadequacies of the real estate company. And by the way, it's like that in every single industry. When you're in an upswing, everything you do looks right, you look smart, world is great. Then things change a little bit and it exposes you. So I know that right now we're not as smart as we appear, but I also know that I'm self-aware enough to constantly be looking at my business and taking inventory and trying to decide what do I need to be focusing on, as opposed to how can I make my lifestyle look bigger because I'm making money now.
And this is one of the things we are going to start touching on in our world and F&F's world, working with our elite teams and partners. We measure sometimes the wrong thing in real estate. We measure, X amount of transactions, or 100 million in volume. Let's start measuring profit. Profit for a real estate brokerage team and single agent practitioner or 1 to 3 agent team, right? Profit is why we do this. Well, and people forget about that, and they get this guy does X, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, that person doesn't make any money, and they have all this risk. They're doing all this work, working 80 hours. We have to start thinking about how you profitably run a real estate business or practice, not just running around and selling some stuff and hoping you got more money in the bank than you did last month.
100%. Ask yourself the following questions, and then you'll know if you fit into that category. Ask yourself, what was my gross units last year? What was my gross volume? What was my net take home? And if you don't know your net take home, what you're really saying is I'm not 100% sure what I spent to generate that business. You taught me years ago. You said, Jason, everybody needs 3 things. They need a P&L, which is nothing different than being able to look back at all of the decisions you made and ask if they were the right ones, evidenced by the number. Then you need to know what you have pending and active today. Then you need an active sales pipeline or some sort of technology, usually in the form of a really strong CRM like a Commissions Inc., to look out and be able to say, what's coming down the road? Am I even in business a year from now? If you don't have all 3 of those things, you probably don't know how much money you're actually making.
Yeah, full disclosure, we love Commissions Inc. We love Real Geeks because it allows our agents to get a literal view into, you don't make profit in this business just by doing more deals. You make profit by expense management and ad tracking. Where am I advertising or spending money such that my ROI is 5x, 7x, 10x? And then sometimes we try stuff because we do things and it's 2x. We go, well, I'm not doing that well there. Let me move to something else that might get me 3x or 5x. But if you don't track ad spend to ROI, it's like having a map of Portland, but you're in Phoenix. You're going to follow the map and still be lost because you're in the wrong city. Yeah. So there. Okay, now let's talk about the market of the moment. Okay, and I love this, right? Like the iBuyer piece, it's not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. We've had $10 billion invested in real estate tech in the last 17 months. And I'll tell you what, my best agents are not sitting there doing the taxi cab thing saying, oh, well, this is a fad and won't last, or, this will never make it. That's what the taxi driver said as Uber and Lyft just ran by them. They have said, hey, how can I integrate? Because the consumer has said yes to the convenience of the iBuyer. And I'll tell you, I love OfferPad because OfferPad came out early, and that's because Brian Baer is a real estate guy, came out early and said, hey, I'll partner with agents. Because, and my smart agents, I've got maybe 100 teams now, 100 individuals using the OfferPad offer to the consumer as part of their a la carte offerings. And I know you're doing that. Talk a bit about that.
Well, I think that's one of the geniuses of Brian, right? Brian came into a space and it wasn't disrupt for the sake of disruption. It was actually trying to provide a streamlined way for the seller who chooses to go down that road to have an easier path to get there, as well as giving the real estate agent a new arrow for their quiver, which was so refreshing. The part that pained me was that so many realtors thought of it the other way, as if to say, hey, you're trying to put me out. And Brian loves realtors. It's the opposite.
Fear is a bad motivator sometimes for doing the right thing. And here's the truth. Brian and OfferPad, some of our other iBuyers, they're smart. Partnering with realtors who already have databases makes more sense than trying to spend $200,000 every market on advertising, right? You can do both and partner now and invest a little bit differently. Here's the truth, right? The consumer, if you're in Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, you're going to hear about iBuyers. You drive on the car, there are an ad every 15 minutes.
100. I was in Atlanta the other day, and just from the airport to drive to get my hair cut, I heard 9 of these ads. Wow. And so here's the thing. You can go out as a realtor. And by the way, not all the iBuyers are created equal.
No.
Right? They're not all altruistic in their pursuit. Brian is, because I think he loves the real estate business genuinely. Yeah. But when you go out and you try to say to the consumer, don't talk about that, that's a bad idea, that you don't even want to hear about it. When you say that, it instantly removes your credibility as a fiduciary.
What you are then, think of yourself as a real estate consultant. Hey, Mr. Homeowner Jason, I've got 3 options. I've partnered with one of the largest institutional firms in America. Here's a cash offer today. No open houses, no cleaning up the dog poo. No rehab, just today. So if you want something fast and quick, it's taken the timeline from 6 weeks to 10 days, because it used to be have 2 agents come out, give me CMAs, talk about listing presentation, look at it. Now, the iBuyer, people go, let me see the money first. Okay, it's $340. Is it worth more than that? It could be if we're going to rehab it up, market. Now we're talking about 60 days, maybe 90. And if we go aggressive on price, it might be 180. So let the consumer choose. The problem with real estate is when you give them a very small box, especially our millennials, they don't like being told this is all you have to do. Go outside of that. Because if you were going to, Brian pays 1 point. If you're going to get 1 point for a 35-minute listing presentation, consultative consultation on $340,000, you know what? You get the $3,400, but more than that, Jason, you keep the client feeling like you had their interest at heart, not just your own.
Well, and that's the thing. And you know, people say to me, "Is this going to be here to last? Is this And here's the thing: I don't know. No one has a crystal ball. I left mine in Detroit, but no one has one that they carry with them. Whether it lasts or not isn't the question. Yeah. The question is when the consumer wants to explore a new avenue, are you going to be a road to get them that exploratory process, or are you going to be a roadblock? You get to make that decision as a realtor. But I want to tell you, if you would have said to every consumer that says to you, I'm willing to list my house if you can provide a virtual tour, and you said, I only use Polaroids, don't call me again, you may be out of business right now.
Right. I don't do open houses. What do you always say to me? It's not or, it's...
It's and here, by the way, the consumer is absolutely clamoring for one-on-one experiences. Think about all of the different apps and all of the different tech that you use. They're all set up so that you feel unique, and they're based on the decisions that you made in the past, giving you a better user experience in the future. So when you go to a homeowner's house and you say, here, option number 1, we can pay for your house this amount of money today. It's fantastic. We've partnered with OfferPad. Option number 2, we can put your home on the market today and we get this number. Option number 3, we do this renovation and maybe we end up with this number. Now all of a sudden you're a true fiduciary.
I love it. And some of my best agents, the Jason Mitchells, we got a young kid, Templeton, he's a great agent growing. They've figured out when I'm consultative, that gives me a chance to demonstrate my knowledge and advice, which is what the consumer pays for.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Real estate breaks into these two really important but really different categories of the functionary and the fiduciary. The functionary, think about all the things that have to happen, the signs, the lock boxes, the contracts, the photos, all of these things. But make no mistake about it, if you're out there and you're a realtor, today or at least a year from now, all of those things can be done by some sort of technology. It's the fiduciary where we have to spend our time and we have to make sure the consumer knows, because the consumer wants representation. It's the same reason
100%.
Why everybody out there still chooses, if you have a financial advisor, you can go on E-Trade today for $4 and pick your own stocks, but you don't do it because of the function. You do it because of the fiduciary.
Well, and let's say this, right? Real estate agents are going to be here forever. Just get that in your head. This whole I started in this space in 1999, and the first book I was taught, I started with a real estate tech startup called IntelliTouch. And the first book they gave me to read was Click Home. And the book said, here's what's coming. People are going to go online, like a house, scroll to the bottom, and click the buy it button at the bottom. That was 1999. Agents were going to be elite. It was just going to removed. It was just going to be consumer and tech. Now, as we know, that will never happen. Realtors using technology will replace realtors. That's happening every day.
Yeah.
So now, find partnerships. And then what I love about it, how you say it, Jeff. You don't say, I'm looking at buying this home for cash. You say, I've got an institutional investor who's already assessed this property today, and this is the number that we can pay for this. I can get you this number today if you'd like it.
But by the way, if that doesn't sound amazingly freeing and liberating to you and you're a realtor, then you're hearing this the wrong way.
Yeah.
How many appointments have you went on where if you had an unlimited bank account and could pay close to actual value for the home, would you have done business as opposed to walking away and then having to do long-term follow-up to try to get the listing? Now, as the market changes, and make no mistake, it will, the average days on market is going to elongate. As that happens, your cash flow becomes tenuous. This is a way to instantly monetize an appointment. Anyone who's running away from this is running simply out of fear, and it's a lack of understanding.
Got it. Okay, and that's why I love our realtor base, because our realtors have figured out, hey, this is where the consumers moved. I'm going to move with them. The ones that don't, and by the way, it's
not all the consumers.
Right? No. Luxury's not doing this. You're not buying luxury homes for $1 million, and then it doesn't work the model, right? So luxury can stay strong, but if you're in that 75% of what sells every day, that 240 to 420, you need to think about how you can find an alliance that makes sense.
Yeah,
all right. Now, here's the other thing we've seen this whole, every real estate brokerage is now a what?
Well, they're all cloud. They're all virtual.
All tech companies. We're all tech companies, right? Let me be clear. We're the only company in America, by the way, F&F, that has $140 million worth of agents paying for our tech. So let's just say that first. No one else is even in the near proximity. And tech is hard. It's hard because adoption is the challenge. We don't need to build more tech that agents don't use. There is a whole business built around that. We need to build tech that they do need to use. It should only focus on 3 things: making their life easier, saving them time, saving them money, and generating 3 to 5 or as many as 20, if you're going to spend money, transactions a year into the database. Talk a little about because you are probably our CRM expert in this space. You coach over 2,000 groups. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think that all the technology that exists today, none of it is being created, at least on our side of the table, to replace the realtor.
No.
It's really to make the realtor better at what they're doing. And the technology really needs to be used as a compass to point you in the right direction to be more human with more people more often. You see, you told me something years ago and reiterated it a couple weeks ago. You said, Jason, people do business with people they like.
Correct.
And I know that sounds so basic, but that really is the fundamental basic tenet of the residential real estate industry. It isn't like the 12 blanks in the purchase agreement or what divides the quality of realtors. It's the realtor who is likable and who is fiduciary and who's consultative that does the business. The challenge becomes we have so many people now that are quote unquote looking at real estate in the form of leads and in the form of people that walk into your open houses and everybody out there. How do you get a compass to tell you who to talk to and when to talk to them? Because life events are happening to all of these people every day. Think about the last 120 days of your life. Matter of fact, do this. Everyone out there, ask yourself, am I buying a home in the next 45 days? And the vast majority of you are going to say no. Now let me ask you this question. If you won the big game today and had $491 million tomorrow, are you a buyer in the next 45 days?
Yes.
And all of a sudden the answer is yes. And what you realize, and Facebook is such a great example of this.
It is.
You go through Facebook and you see either the
Tragedy and hero.
Tragedy and hero. You see the best days and the worst days. Well, if you have a data bank that has 5, 6, 7,000 people in it, it's almost a mathematical certainty that at least once a week someone is having a moving opportunity in their life. They're having a tragedy or they're having something great.
Well said.
The technology that exists today is done in such a way where we can watch the behaviors that the consumer is exhibiting to be in the right place more often. That's how you got to use it.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is all it is trying to give you somebody who's putting their hand up.
That's right.
You know, some people are lying down not interested, and then all of a sudden, like you said, divorce, marriage, empty nester, baby. And then that creates this, now we got to start looking at it. And people are looking way earlier. I do this math of my top 50 teams in their database of all their closings out of the internet-based. And the majority of closings, Jason, are in our agent's database 13 months or longer because people like to look because they can get that info today very easily. Thoughts on that?
I read a really interesting blog post the other day that said, it used to be said that the American pastime was looking at houses. And I want to tell you, I still think it's the American pastime. I just think we have better visibility into who's doing it and how often. Right. So even if the behavior is that you think about homes far before you ever take action, and let's just say that's always been the case, we're sitting in a time for the first time ever where we have the ability to watch it in real time. Like, I don't know how many of you are out there taking it for granted, but we are living in this extraordinary period where you can do things that have never been able to be done before. On your cell phones, you have the collective knowledge of mankind at a fingertip.
Yeah.
I mean, your car drives itself.
Does it really?
I took Jason a ride in my Tesla, and you'd have thought, like,
wow.
Detroit guys don't like Teslas, I've learned, because they're all in the middle of the whole
True story.
Gash. So
Really?
he's like, why aren't your hands on the wheel? I said, no, it's autopilot. It doesn't.
Wow.
It goes, and he literally is like doing a video and
Like, I couldn't
calling
believe
his
it.
wife live, FaceTiming. I'm like, Jason, this has been
Does
going
it turn
on for
itself
years.
too?
No.
Oh, just-
you can change lanes with it, but it doesn't.
Okay.
But literally, you'd have thought I discovered world peace serum or something like for Jay.
But it's serious, though, because if you stood up in 1995, I got into the business in 99,
Right.
and if I stood up and said, everyone in the room, raise your hand if you wish you had a way to know everyone in your community that's thinking about real estate today. Everyone would kind of smile and laugh, and that was a joke then.
Yeah, true
I
now.
want to tell you,
True
you
now.
can do that right now.
Yeah.
And then the key is, so let's. Here's what I'll say: our protection, realtors, against anybody trying to, which downward commission is true and going to continue to happen. Too much money's in this space, challenging the time it takes and the cost it takes to conduct a transaction. It's going to happen. The difference is you will always find this: price is only an issue in the absence of value. So how do I explain all the things we do? Do you talk about in a listing presentation? You have 7,000 people in a data bank that you score and rate every week. Do you talk about the number of calls you make? How many calls does your team make a week prospecting for sellers and buyers?
I mean, well, look, it's literally going to be hundreds of thousands of dials that we're going to make. Here's the amazing thing, though. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you didn't do any of those things. Let's just say that you were just in the right time more often to say the right things. My wife, she's fond of saying, Jason, you're just telling me what you think I want to hear.
Which is true, by the way. But
Well, yeah, of course. Who would ever go and say something they don't want to hear? Like, I'm a sales guy. And I guess what I'd love to get across to you people is that if you say what people want to hear at the right time, they're amazingly receptive to your message.
So you have one of the best analogies. And for anybody that shops, you got it. Tell the Nordstrom analogy, which is exactly how people are in real estate today.
I think, well, when you walk into Nordstrom, someone immediately comes up to you and says, can I help you? And what do you say to them?
No, I'm just
Just
looking.
looking.
Right, yeah, 100. We're all just looking. And then you walk around the store, and the average American browses for about 13 minutes before they either leave the store or need to get into the fitting room. But of course, you all know the fitting room is locked because we're all thieves, and you have to find someone to let you in. Now, I ask you, Steve, do you care whether it was the person who greeted you at the front door or any person with a set of keys will do?
I look for the closest. I don't even remember who greeted me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the consumer's relationship to the realtor in the pay-per-click era. And I know we want it to be more than that. And after 20 years of doing this, I'd like it to be more than that too. But the reality is it's not. And so the way that this manifests itself is when a lead comes into your world, you need to respond to it right at the front door within 5 minutes, because the leads that are happening now are happening in real time. And the consumer then is supposed to say to you, no, they're just browsing. But they don't say that. They say, I'm not interested. I already have a realtor. Don't ever call me again. I didn't register on your site. I hate you. Whatever they're going to say.
Oh, and by the way, that's what they're going to say, and they're going to try not to answer your phone or your text.
Right, but that's okay, because think about the person who you told you were just browsing to.
Yeah.
Did you feel badly about it? No, you felt completely vindicated to say to someone, I don't want to be bothered right now. I'm just browsing. You didn't walk away and say, I'm really deficient. I bet you they had a script. I should have been more receptive. It doesn't happen. Now they're going to browse. But here's what we know. We know, and you just said it, that the average consumer is in a realtor data bank for 19 months before they do something. That's a much longer browsing period.
So let's be clear. So guys, the thing we have to think about is, it's not a bad lead, an IDX lead with a 555 phone number. They usually give a good email. Why? They want what? How do you build rapport and trust with a consumer who does not know you? I will tell you how you do it. Response quickly to any inquiry. Phone, text, email, all of that. Right away with under 5 minutes. Secondly, what people want from you is property. They want property. And by the way, have a system, a CRM of some kind that can give property real time, give property daily once a day at the end of the day, give property once a week, give property twice a month, or give property monthly, because that tells you what stage in the process of purchase they are in. And by the way, most people start with, I'll just take it once a week, that's fine, I'm just looking. But
that's having items on the shelf. If you walked into Nordstrom's and there was nothing on the shelves, you'd leave and you'd go to Barney's.
Exactly.
I know you'd go have the clothes made. You'd go somewhere else. But when you fail to send property searches to people, understand that's what they're wanting from you. When we talk about Zillow, and real estate agents love to rail against Zillow, Zillow only does two things fundamentally. Number one, it gives buyers a place to search for real estate in real time in pace with the MLS. And number two, it gives people an idea of value.
His estimate.
And so what I want you to do is become big data, become Zillow. Take the people that are in your system and send them the properties they're looking for regularly. Send them the comps on a regular basis, and then sit back and watch their behaviors.
Let's go through the 4 items of gold to ensure a maximized data bank, aka database. Does not matter what CRM you have necessarily, as long as it is a functioning, intuitive CRM. Okay? Don't tell me you have Top Producer or Wise Agent or something. That is, now you just basically have a shoebox online and you hope people call you. If you have a system built around that, and Real Geek, Sync, Boomtown's good, Taxly's okay, you've got some things that you can generate. No matter what you have, Jay, give us the 4 things you have to do to maximize success, and there are really only 4.
Yeah, the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that the number of people in your data bank is growing every day. So I start my day, I look at my stocks, and if there's a green arrow, I feel good. If there's a red arrow, I call and yell at the financial advisor. If you're sitting there and your number of total consumers in the system is not going up every day, you lost the day before.
And it should be so easy to look in the right corner or look in the left corner and go, oh, I had 2,100. Today, 2,120. It's just like acquiring additional stock, knowing that at some point in time, we are in a contact sport. More contacts, more results.
Absolutely. Number 2, Every one of those people needs to be getting a regular property alert or comps.
Let's be clear. Every one of them, 1-to-1, correct?
Every single person in the system. The reason is that is the invitation to bring them back into your world. Understand, we know now as a fact because of Zillow that people are going to go and look for the info if it's not being provided regularly. So when you send someone an automated property search through your CRM and they then click on that link, they are now logged back into your world. The reason that matters is because you know that at that moment, they have raised their hand and said, I'm thinking about real estate.
Do me a favor, too. In your message with the property update, say things like directly integrated into the MLS to ensure real-time updates. Something like that. My children who are looking for property now, both of them, don't search on Zillow because they say, Dad, every time I call on that, it's already rented or already sold. So tell people you actually have the realtor data. You have the live time data. Don't let other people tell a story better than you when you have the best data.
The next thing we want to do is we want to search by either last logged in or last visited or any way that you can search to see when the people were on your site last. What we're looking for in a healthy data bank is between 7 and 12% of consumers on the site within the last 48 hours. This means that they're thinking about real estate. Now, the next part here is really important. Anyone that's been on your site in the last 48 hours needs to be contacted within 24 hours of that time. Back to the Nordstrom's analogy for a second. This is asking people, do you want to get into the fitting room? Because what you don't want to have happen is where you just become the ultimate provider of information that gets no commission. And I'm not in the sales prevention business. No, quite the opposite. This is about putting you in the right place at the right moment. So when someone is on your site looking about houses, you then need to talk to them and call them or text them and get into their world. And you see how these three things that we talked about so far work with each other, meaning that every day my site gets bigger, everybody in the site gets these invitations, and now I'm going to have more people every day thinking about real estate that I can then contact.
And the truth is, even if you're a single practitioner or you plus your spouse, every morning get up, ask yourself, did we add anyone to our data bank? 2, has anybody been on there in the last 48 hours? And if they have, call them, text them, blow their phone up. It's okay because they are now actively interested in something.
Absolutely. The next thing you should do is you're going to have either a reminder category or a to-do category or a future touch category. You should be searching by that. Now, when you do, what you're going to get is either a positive number, a negative number, or NA. If it's a negative number, that means that you were supposed to do something and you missed it. Now, I always, and everyone laughs, but I always say, if you went on an amazing first date on Wednesday and then said, hey, can I take you out again Saturday? And then called 491 days later and said, yo, how about that dinner? Like, odds are you're not connected.
Even J Money didn't get the dinner.
It didn't work out. They probably met someone exceptional over the last 491 days. And if they didn't, even if they were average, they jumped at the opportunity. You cannot have negative numbers. And if you have NA, that means that no reminder was set. And I want to tell you right now, anybody in your system who you're not purposefully following up with might as well not be in your system. Everybody in there, everybody needs to get a personal touch, either phone or text, at least once every 30 days. Wow. We talked about it earlier that every one of you is a buyer within 45 days if the right life event happens. Do not let long periods of time go by, because if you're paying for these leads, I mean, you might as well put your money anywhere else at that point.
This is the most difficult part. People fail systems. Systems don't fail people. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, oh, the system doesn't work. Generally, it's not the tech. It's how the tech is applied and adopted. That is the 100% truth. So one of the focuses that we try to have is let's get you to adopt the 4 to 6 things that you have to do in order to get ROI. If you can't get a return on this investment and produce this what you just described takes you 2 hours in the morning. If you did that in the morning, if your daily routine was 2 hours in the morning of that, and then you went out and did whatever you want to do, show houses, go have lunch, mingle, call pet, whatever. But that 2 hours in that data bank play will ensure you're going to bubble more deals to the top. And that's your 3 to 5 deals a year that you're getting with people that are putting their hand up a little faster. Okay? All right, now let's go into 19 now. So let's, folks here, we're in the fourth quarter now. We're looking around. What does 2009, give me 3 to 4 things you can do leading into 19 that will ensure a rocket start to the year.
The first thing you have to get really clear on is that 2019, from an economic standpoint, is probably going to look really similar to 2018. No one's projecting a crash now.
Correct.
But you do want to look back and ask yourself the following question. I'm living in the single greatest time ever for residential real estate. Am I getting the results I deserve? If the answer is no, then I urge you to make a change in Q4. That way you can explode into the new year. The first thing you need to do is ask yourself this question. Do I have past clients who I have not spoken to in the last 120 days? If the answer is yes, let me get real clear with you on something. You're squandering the greatest resource there is.
Wow.
You see, tradition is the only thing you can't buy. And in the residential real estate business, that tradition are past clients. And I want to tell you, if you don't take your people back, someone's going to take them from you.
Love that.
So what do you do to get them back?
Well, the first thing you do is you get really clear on the fact that you've lost them and that's your fault. And the reason I think that that's important is because you have to take some personal responsibility of where the residential real estate industry is going. Last year, about 44% of all the transactions happened via referral. Guys, 44%. That number used to be 100%. Back in the 50s, no one would do business without a realtor getting referred to them. If that number gets to 0, then understand we may have lost. The way you do business now might be over. So we have to raise that number. Here's how you do it. You got to call all these people, and you got to actually care about them. Now, I know that sounds so simplistic.
No, it doesn't, because people do business with people they like.
Right.
Be likable.
And the best way to do it right now is to use the baseline script. I think you need to call all your people and you need to say, hey, this is Jason calling, your real estate agent. We're in a boom right now. And what happens during a boom is that the consumer grabs onto the most anecdotal piece of evidence that says their home is worth the most amount of money. So maybe it's worth $700,000. They grab onto something that says, well, it's worth $1 million too. The problem with that is as the market changes, you're unable to make real good decisions because you don't have a baseline. What I'd like to do today is tell you on September 13th of 2018, your home is worth blank. That way, every time I call you, whether it's 3 months from now or 6 months or a year from now or 2 years from now, I'm going to say, Jason, in relation to that baseline that we set back in September of 2018, your home has either went up or down in value. Now, guys, that's the difference between a functionary and a true fiduciary.
Wow.
Let me offer this to you. I also think real estate is riddled with fake prophets. People that don't sell a home or never sold a home or haven't sold a home in a decade, telling us how to do business. The one thing I'm blessed with is our firm last month, F&F, closed 168,000 real estate transactions last month in the U.S. And I get to work with people like Jay and our best people all across America. I always tell them, pick your profits wisely. Everybody's got a good story. Look around and go, does this person actually demonstrate they know how to sell homes in today's market? Do they have a model that I could get 1 or 2 nuggets out of such that I could apply and adopt it to my business or practice in real estate? Then thirdly, do they offer me a way to consult back with them and ask questions where I can get a short, succinct answer? I'm one of those guys that think the more we talk about something, the less we actually know. Like the sentences get longer. I have a buddy of mine, and he's a good mentor. Somebody goes, how do I lose weight? And he goes, I have the perfect, I give it to you. Move more, eat less.
Well said.
That's easy.
That's it, right? Okay, now,
That's easy.
You want to do more real estate, prospect more, talk to people who raise their hand more, add more contacts, guaranteed you'll do more deals in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, it breaks into 2 really distinct parts. You have your sphere of influence, everyone that knows you, likes you, and should be sending you a referral, and then you have everybody else in the world. Everyone else in the world is this active sales pipeline, and it's important. But start at home. Start with that SOI. Go make your people yours again. Go create some referral sources. Go spend Q4 reconnecting with the people that you've ignored. Think about the people in your life that you used to talk to and now you don't. And ask yourself, what did those people, for whatever it was, what did they do to deserve that treatment? And it's probably a real reason. Now ask yourself, what did your past clients do to deserve that?
Exactly right. You always hit on the head. Don't treat them as leads. Treat them as
People.
correct. Listen, we've had a blast. Every time I'm around you, I love being around you. I learned something. And I hope you guys felt like this week of the weekly closer that I didn't lose my job. I can come back maybe.
You certainly can.
But we still appreciate the real estate network is the greatest network in the world. And our goal is to add 1 or 2 nuggets every quarter to it to help those that want to help themselves get better. We're thankful for your involvement, for listening, for your partnership. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Adios.
Good job, guys.
Great.
Awesome.